And this is a myth number one, that we think you need to be rich to start to get into the investment game.
I can't possibly be an investor. I'm not a millionaire. Is this something that you have heard or something that maybe you have said to yourself? Today's guest is going to bust that myth. Sokhiba is a trailblazer, an advocate, mentoring and investing female minority founders around the world and helping them get shit done. She is going to bust a couple myths for us, share what to do and what not to do as an early investor. We want you to walk away from this episode with the belief that if you wanted to or were interested in becoming an investor, you are now equipped with a little more knowledge on how to do it. Let's dive into the conversation around investing with Sokhiba. On today's episode of the GST Factor podcast, I am honored to have Sokhiba. Sokhiba, friend, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Misha, for having me on this and giving me this opportunity.
Oh, so Sokhiba, why don't you share with our listeners just a little bit about your story and your background as we dive into our conversation?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sokhiba. I work for InsurTech New York as an investment principal. My main job is to support and invest in startups which are innovative and which are disrupting an insurance industry. And as a personal interest for many years, I have been mentor and investor of impact-driven startups, mainly diverse founders, female founders, and climate is one of my favorite topics. I'm originally from Kazakhstan, but I moved to London to study my degree, and then I got a job in banking. And into angel investing and in investing in general, I came by a very small coincidence, which I would share in a minute, but it turned my life, transformed my career, and everything I learned because of my angel investing.
And that is exactly what we're talking about today is angel investing, any of those myths that we hear. We want to bust the myths. We really want to ignite a desire for new angel investors, especially female investors, minority investors. So Hiba, can you share with us your story on how you got to angel investing and the amazing inspirational leader and mentor that you found that really kind of called it forth for you?
In my case, I was doing MBA in London, and after my MBA, I basically continued in my career in banking. And some of my MBA classmates continued building startups. So some of them decided to build startups. And when they faced first, let's say, angel rounds and questions, they knew that in our MBA class, I was one of the finance person to go for. And one of my friends called me for help, saying, "Can you help me with that questions?" And when I see it, for me, coming from banking, investment banking, it was pretty clear what's going on. And then I said, let me call a couple of people who I know angel investors to clarify whether my understanding is correct. And I called two people. And one of them was super kind. He gave me like a full explanation. And he said, I will send you the link for a pitch event tomorrow. You come and you will see what is going on. And I came, and interestingly, I was the youngest one, and I was the only one woman among the semi-retired people. Yeah, so 10 years ago, that was a angel people who were in their 50s, who were in their early 60s, who had capital to invest, and that was my first impression. So I was sitting there listening to the startups speaking about their ideas and about their dreams and mission, and for me, interestingly, I felt home. Okay, like I felt like this is mine. And I couldn't sleep that night, that how amazing this industry is, although I don't understand anything about it. And then I started talking to people. Okay, initially nobody knew me, but I started attending and then helping some of these founders, which I see made especially female founders, who I see made a mistake during their pitch, I would go and somehow give them an advice how to turn it around. Okay. So sometimes the best pitch in terms of traction or progress, but the founder will be still need some coaching. And the founders who were confident, whatever they were building, however not exciting it is, because the founder had so much charisma, that it will get like a lot of attention. Okay. So I would go and try to help the shy or female founders to do something like to get attention. And that's how I started. And I was attending, and then I started mentoring free of charge. And then one of the interesting points, I realized that there were so many students building things like out of Cambridge University, out of Oxford University, and they started sharing their ideas with me just to get a feedback. Okay. And one of the angels who was very kind, he said, you have a deal flow. So now you have an access to all these PhDs building these cool things, which we don't have. Right. And he was saying, like, he started giving me some tips. Yeah. How to mentor them, how to and then one day I went to an event of my most amazing, let's say, inspirational role model. Her name is Jenny Toos. She's the CEO of UK Business Angel Association. It's been like 8 years ago now. And I was sitting in the front, and this is like a tool. I was sitting in the front, and I was wearing a very bright scarf. Okay. And then of course, she saw me because I was one of the few ladies in the room. And I waited until everyone left, and I went to her and I said, I'm just so inspired by your journey and by the work you do, and how big is your influence and impact into UK startup ecosystem. Yeah. And she said, okay, tell me what you do. And I mentioned that I work in the bank, but I mentor startups, female founders. And she said, are you an angel investor? I said, no, I'm not a millionaire. And this is a myth number one, that we think you need to be rich to start to get into the investment game. And of course, we grew up in the normal families, middle class families. My father was a music teacher. And the word investment was never even mentioned anywhere. Okay. We lived in a nice house and everything, but we kind of lived as a normal. And then when I started working in the bank, I saved for my degree and my parents helped me. But I continued, and this is a myth number two, or let's say mistake number two. High income and wealth are different. We have so many people who have high incomes, but they try to maintain their high lifestyles. So they don't study investment, or they don't do investment. They might have some savings, but if we don't do investments, these savings will be just gone by inflation, right? So she saw me and she said, why you are not angel investor? I was like, because I don't have a million. She said, you don't need a million. You just need to understand the concept of risk and patient capital, because investing in startups, it's very high risk. That's why I always suggest to make a very, very small tickets. Yeah. And in terms of ticket, like, I learned from another mentor who was a very semi-retiring, and when he saw me being very excited, he said, sit down here, my daughter. Let's put some rules to the road, because he didn't wanted me to make mistakes. And he said one question, and I would ask you as well. What is the most expensive item you bought yourself, apart from house and car, like for yourself, let's say a bag? And then he said, whatever that is, let's say a bag or travel, which you treated yourself, you double by two. Okay? So he said, that's your ticket size.
That's amazing. I think those nuggets that you're dropping on us are incredible. And I think that guardrail, right, is fantastic. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, because he just said, and I said, my Chanel bag. He said, and when he heard the price, he said, are you crazy? Do you know how much it costs to produce Chanel bag? There was a Financial Times, like he was mentioning that there was a study that how much it cost. And he said, why don't you invest that money?
Mm.
Okay. And there, so my journey started. So the moment I met Jenny Toos, she said, you need to join an angel syndicate. Yeah. At least to learn about it. You don't have to invest immediately. You can take time to learn about it. And this is a secret, one of my biggest secrets of, let's say, me becoming angel investor. I joined an angel syndicate, which was the first one investing in female founders. And I would be eternally grateful. Her name is Sarah Turner. She was the first woman who set up a syndicate for supporting female founders. She was a pioneer. And thanks to introduction, I joined her syndicate. Yeah. And I would be eternally grateful because everything I learned, I partially learned from them. Of course, I was also learning myself, but I learned so much from being syndicate because when you are doing your own ticket and let's say it's small, let's say it's 5,000 or 10,000, some startups might not accept this small ticket because it's too much hassle. But if you are part of an angel syndicate and let's say there are 10 people with 5,000 or 10 people with 10,000, these 10 people have their backgrounds. I might be strong in finances, but I don't know the operations, or I'm not a salesperson, or there are some people who are specialized in legal, let's say IP matters, right? So in our syndicate, there were people who had different backgrounds and who were contributing because this is like a shared investment. Everybody was contributing from their point of view. And you can from leveraging their backgrounds, you can minimize the risk.
Well, and it's the power of community. And I
Yeah.
think one of the other lessons that we were talking about pre-show was that the importance of peers. And when you do that syndicate, it brings these peers together with you. So talk about your philosophy around that peers and why it's so important to surround yourself with those peers.
Like you are one of the 5 people you must surround yourself with, right? And this is so true. This is so true. And yeah, so in my angel journey, initially I was with Angel Syndicate. Then I joined another angel syndicate, which was specific for another topic. Then I got an invitation to join another syndicate. Yeah, and each of them had different, as we called it in investment world, thesis. Yeah, so one was supporting women, one was supporting climate, one was supporting fintech, and one was supporting renewable energy, which is my favorite topic. Another secret which I wanted to mention is invest in what you know. Okay, so one of the secrets here is there are so many startups, and once you put your, let's say you put on LinkedIn angel investor, you will receive like 15 deals tomorrow. But the secret is knowing what you invest and have a, let's say, expert level knowledge in what you invest, or have somebody else in your network, and again back to peer group, who is very good with that topic. Like this particular topic, it's the most, like I know that she works 25 years in that industry, right? And again, it's back to peer group, right? It's sometimes people call me if they receive a climate or insurance deal, they would send it to me for let's say my opinion, right? Because startup, especially angels, invest at a very early stage, and that's why sometimes it's called FFF, friends, family, and fools. So early angels invest at a very early stage. That's why I suggest to diversify the risk and minimize the ticket. The ticket size I mentioned is maximum 2 Chanel bags. And second thought here is investing in what you know, in what you are expert in, because you will be able to open their data room, their finances, and go deeper, and you have an understanding how the industry works and what's the industry average and what could go wrong. And this is like crucially important, because when you don't understand the startup or what they are doing and you don't have this expert knowledge, it's very easy to make mistakes.
This is like a 101 angel investing, Sokhiba. This has been amazing. When you are out in the world, you base out of Europe, you're here in the US. When you are talking with new friends, new people,
Mm-hmm.
what how does this come up in conversations, right? How does the topic of angel investing or being an investor or being a mentor to female founders, how does the conversation flow?
Well, I think, well, now many people know what I'm doing, but let's say I went, and this is like amazing, another wisdom. I went to Tony Robbins, and there was like 15,000 people in London, and he was trying to cool us down somehow. And he says, sit down wherever you are. Okay, so just sit down. Because, of course, everybody was trying to network, right? And he said, the people who you're supposed to meet is people sitting two sides from your seat and two sides like this. And he said, and the people who, if additional people will be in the queue for coffee, for a meal, for like pay close attention with whom you are sitting in the plane, with whom you are staying in the queue, with whom this is like, it will be so amazing. I found a best friend this way because we were staying in the conference for a queue for registry, and I saw she was building a startup, so CEO of a startup. With a simple question, I said, what are you building? We became like, of course, we met for coffee, and I started mentoring her, and now she's one of my best friends. And another investment I made personally, I met at co-working space asking for a coffee cup. Yeah. So you should have an open mind, like, because great startups can come from anywhere. Somebody might refer, So I was in a co-working space, which is startups office. And I said, where do you have coffee cups? And when I saw his jacket that he was an accelerator, I said, what are you building? Yeah. And that's how that's how I find these deals. And that's how it came. And I wanted to mention something. Yes, I wanted to mention one very important thing. When people think about startups, they think it's very exciting. They read all these stories that somebody become a unicorn you know, and it's very important to remember that angel investing is highly, highly, highly risky. Okay, so imagine it's like casino basically, because this is the 90% of startups will fail, and only one out of 100, if you do it well, will pop up as a good deal. No, of course everybody is searching for the next Google, the next Uber, but it's not that easy to come by. Yeah, so it's very risky. That's why I always, when I speak with my friends and everything, I always suggest only to allocate. Let's say you have 100,000 to allocate as an investment. Let's say you have savings and now you want to invest. Only 5% max should be allocated to startups, maximum 10. Okay? The rest 90% should be allocated in, let's say, more safer, possibly with some help from advisor, more safer like bonds, ETFs, like whatever you are expert. So always invest in what you know. Okay, because sometimes people do mistakes. They put a very big ticket in a startup, and another problem, they put very big ticket in one startup because they want to get in the game, and that's usually de-risked. By being a member of syndicate, you learn from other people. What is your investment strategy? What is your favorite topic? And by asking these questions and listening, but be aware that this is a very high risk. So I always tell to my friends, this is a casino. Okay, so be aware that it should be no more than 2 Chanel bags, because if, let's say, if I lose my Chanel bag, I would cry for two weeks, but then I would somehow move on. No, it's just a bag. However, if you lose like a big amount, then it will be difficult to recover, and then it will be difficult. It might be some obligations. So it should be many small bets rather than one big one.
That's so good, Sokhiba. This season on our podcast, We are talking about stepping into your extraordinary. So, how is Sokhiba stepping into your extraordinary going into this year from that angel investing, the syndicate, the being an investor on both sides of the pond? How are you stepping into your extraordinary here in 2025?
I like this is possibly a bit more spiritual, but my angel investment journey transformed my career because at one point I realized that although I loved my banking role and I was there for 15 years and I was quite senior, it didn't bring me joy. And it didn't bring me joy for a few months. And I realized that what was bringing me joy was mentoring female founders, mentoring diverse founders, helping them, because it's extraordinary to see that only 2% of all funding goes to female founders and even less to diverse founders. And I believe it can be changed by bringing more angel investors who are women of color, diverse women, as well as bringing them in investment roles in the VCs, right? Because they bring perspective, right? And the more we will be talking about bringing more perspective, supporting these women. And also, I wanted to mention that women make a lot better investments. Actually, it's statistically proven that women make better investment decisions. And also, if you think like in a bigger way, women's in charge of buying groceries, buying clothing, paying insurance, buying insurance, all of the important financial decisions are made by women, right? It's just we need to educate, will be the right word, other women that investments are available, that there is this world about investments, and step by step, like hand-holdingly through this kind of programs, educating them to slowly take these risks, right? And it should be small and everything, but it doesn't have to be overnight. No need to jump over immediately. You are maybe learning, maybe it takes 2 years to learn how to invest. But eventually, the biggest failure is not investing at all, is not getting in the game. Okay? Because if you will not be is sitting on the sidelines and watching other people doing, whether it will be angel investing, whether it will be other types of investing, learning and practicing little by little will give a confidence, will give skills, right? And I think this year in particular, it's interesting that even during Christmas dinner, people were asking me about investments. And I realized that I should start sharing more with females, with friends, with other women who are entrepreneurs about basics of fundamentals of financial management, personal as well as family, as well as teaching them that investment is not so scary, that you don't have to be scared about it. And I believe that one by one, educating one person at a time, supporting one female founder at a time, will change the society. It will become like a better impact society. One more thought which I learned from Jenny Tooth many years ago, and she said, "How many women do you see in the room?" And there were like 4 of us. And she said, "How many young women do you see in the room?" And I was the only one. And she said, "Now, how many Asian women do you see in the room?" And there was none. And she said, "And that's why we have the problem." Because she said, because it will be easier for Asian founder or young founder to speak with a sister or to speak with somebody who looks similar than going to an uncle. That was kind of in a funny way she was saying, like, she said, we need more angel investors who are diverse, who are from different backgrounds, who will be supporting and investing in people and founders who are just like themselves. And guess what? My angel investment portfolio, as well as most of my VC portfolio, is diverse or immigrant founders. And I think that's how you build it.
So, Kiba, amazing conversation. I hope that this conversation has ignited that inspiration in others. I hope that our listeners today, especially our female listeners, walk away from this saying, oh, I've learned something. I'm interested. I want to learn more. I'm early in my own angel investing journey as well. And it truly is, you need to surround yourself with the right people. It is a mindset change, but there is these levels of confidence. And I'm so excited to see and follow your journey into this year as you are, expanding your own voice and amplifying what you've learned. I think, I'm learning from you in our own syndicate, but I'm so grateful for you joining us because I really think that some of these amazing nuggets and myths and mistakes that you've shared with our listeners are so powerful. And we often talk about within the GST Factor Life, we learn what to do, but we also learn what not to do. We're learning on our own experiences, but we're also learning from others. And you have done that for us today.
And it's been pleasure. And I always wanted to say to listeners, yeah, whatever, however big is your dream, or however, let's say, financially unstable the situation is, learning like there is so much information, there is so many amazing, incredible books. Um, but learning, like studying about it a bit by bit and taking tiny steps. So people forget, like people think that I need to take a big major leap, but we forget about that little steps every day actually is part of our journey. So we should not be afraid to take that little steps every day, to study about it. And to all the female founders who are fundraising right now, continue on your road, because if you remember, Canva's founder have been declined like over 100 times, right? And she's now like decacorn now, but she was struggling to fundraise. So sometimes I guess we still need to bust that myths and bust that bias that the great businesses can be built by women and can be built by different women. And I think there is still a lot of work to do, but one founder at a time, one startup at a time, and one investment at a time. I think we are getting there. In my case, in order to change the world, you should start from yourself. So I'm starting with a girl in the mirror.
Amazing. And we're going to get shit done.
Exactly.
So, Kiva, thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners. And don't forget to keep getting shit done. Bye-bye.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the GST Factor podcast. I'm your host, Misha Blaymeyer-Farish. Be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, as I love connecting with our listeners to hear how you are getting shit done in your personal and professional life. Be sure to visit our website at gstfactor.com, where you can take a persona assessment that's going to help you figure out what type of GSDer you are. There's also a ton of resources and tools for both yourself and your tiny humans in your life. We appreciate you rating and subscribing our podcast episode today. And don't forget to get shit done.